to record all the lectures, and I will be uploading them on YouTube at the end of the lecture, right? If there is some delay, I will still try to do it on the same day and not postpone it to the next day, right? Okay. All right, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to Structural Graph Theory, CS6240 at IIT Madras. Right, so I want to just start with some discussion about the objectives of this course and some logistical points. And if at any point you have questions or concerns, feel free to raise your hand on the meeting, and I will ask you soon enough, right? And if I don't see your raising your hand, then feel free to interrupt after some time. Okay. So, right. So this course is titled Structural Graph Theory. Okay. So I want to start by talking about the objectives of the course, at least the main objectives. Right? So first of all, graph theory does have lots of applications. I won't write down everything, but basically there are lots of applications in all sorts of theoretical and applied fields. To name a few, there is theoretical physics, organic chemistry, computer science, electrical engineering, bioinformatics, etc. Right? However, the focus of this course is on the theoretical aspects, right? And generally, many of the applications build on this theory. So there is definitely a lot of, let's say, it's worth learning the theory before you go into further applications that build on this theory, right? So the focus of this course is on the theoretical aspects. And some of you might be wondering, why do we call it structural graph theory and not just graph theory? So while the focus will be on theoretical aspects, it will be particularly on the structural aspects of the subject. So I'll explain to you what that means, but it will become clearer only at the end of the first week what I really mean by a structural result. Right? So especially the structural results and techniques. So what I mean to say is that, well, if you want to prove statements about graphs, you could use techniques from other areas of mathematics. You can use algebraic techniques. You can use probabilistic and randomized techniques. But the focus in this course is going to be on structural techniques, where you really focus on the structure of the graph. And that also means that the results you prove are typically very structural in nature. And I will give you an example of a structural result in a few minutes, or hopefully by the end of this lecture. Okay? So, as opposed to, say, algebraic, probabilistic, and other techniques and results. Okay? And so, of course, during the course, you will be learning a lot of fundamental results in graph theory, which are of structural nature, and you will be seeing proofs of these. And on the assignments, you will be mostly be proving statements. So the assignments will be full of prove this statement or prove that statement kind of stuff. Right? There will be hardly any computational kind of questions on the assignments. So that will be one point. So the main takeaways are to learn or improve your proof writing skills. Well, first of all, learn or improve your knowledge on proving statements, proving mathematical statements rigorously. And second, I am particularly interested in improving your proof writing skills. So there is one thing about proving something and understanding for yourself, but it's another thing to explain that proof to another person, right? Who will be marking your assignments, which will be me in this case, right? So hopefully you will also be able to improve your proof writing skills. So those are the main objectives of this course, right? Any questions or concerns pertaining to this so far? Okay, if not, let's move on. So what are the prerequisites for the course? So there is the course MA2130 offered by the mathematics department at IIT Madras, basic graph theory. So if you have taken that course, then you should be, generally speaking, you should be prepared for this course. If you are not sure, you may have a discussion with me. Of course, there may be students who have not taken this course because they are either postgraduate students at IIT Madras or they might be even students from other institutes like CMI. So in that case, any equivalent course should do. And most of you who are in that situation, you've already talked to me and it seems that you would be prepared to take the course, right? But if you haven't talked to me yet, please write to me. You can also send a message to me on WhatsApp. Just ask for my number over email and I will send it to you, right? And we can have a quick conversation about this course and whether it will be a good fit for you, etc. Right? All right, see, the textbook that we will be using for most of the things is Bondi Murthy 2008. So the book is here. I have it with me, right? So, okay, so the book is not visible. Now maybe it's visible. Okay. So it's Bondi Murthy 2008. They have another book from 1970s, which is also okay, but this is the one I will be following, right? In general, I will make all the notes available to you. So whatever I'm writing during the lecture, I will convert it into a PDF file and share it with you at the end of the lecture. So I don't know how much you will really need a textbook, but if you want to, you may refer to this book, right? Okay. All right. And finally, let's talk a little bit about the evaluations. So I plan to have about 5 to 6 assignments for the course. And 1 to 2 assignments that focus on writing. So I will call them writing exercises. So in general, I will pay attention to your writing skills on assignments. It will not be just marked for the correctness. It will also be marked for how well it is written, right? But the writing exercises will especially focus on the writing aspect. Of course, the math has to be correct. That goes without saying. But the writing will also be taken into account, right? And the writing exercises will generally be proving a statement that requires a slightly more lengthy proof and might have some moving parts and pieces. So the goal is to connect all those pieces and prove a particular theorem. That will not be proved in the lectures, it will be on your exercises. Okay. All the assignments, yeah, there's a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just repeat regarding the writing part of the assignments?
Right. So in general, for all assignments, the writing will be taken into account, right? So apart from being mathematically correct, it should also be well written. But the writing exercises will be especially focusing on the writing part, right? So I will be even more, let's say, strict with the writing part on the writing exercises, right? So their goal is really to improve your writing skills. And in fact, I would go a step further. The writing exercises will basically prepare you to be able to write a research paper in graph theory. So the standard expected will be uh, quite high. And the goal here, and of course, I will be there to help you out with things if you need, but the goal is to help you be in a position where you can actually write a research paper in structural graph theory. Right? So that's the goal behind the writing exercises. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For all of the assignments and writing exercises, I will allow collaboration. Depending on how many students finally take the course, I will allow either groups of 2 or I might even allow groups of 3. Right? So that will depend on how many students enroll in the course. By enroll, I mean they are taking it for credit and not just auditing the course. Okay? Students who are crediting the course, they must collaborate with other students who are also crediting the course. They may not collaborate with students who are auditing the course. Right? But I will allow collaboration on all assignments and writing exercises. What does collaboration mean? It means that you are allowed to discuss the mathematical part, but the writing has to be done separately and the students have to submit separate files. So for example, if X and Y are collaborating on an assignment, they may have discussions in order to solve the assignment problems. But when it comes to writing down their responses, they have to do it independently and they should not share any written material with each other. And if there is any instance of that, then that will be considered to be a case of plagiarism. And then you can look up the course outline for what happens in that case, right? So I want to allow collaboration because I want you to be able to discuss with other students how to prove things. And I want you to be able to have mathematical discussions. But I don't want that to turn into plagiarism and cheating, right? Of course.
Sir, I have a question. So
Yes,
is collaboration necessary or mandatory? Because
No, it's not mandatory. So if somebody wants to do their assignments completely on their own, they don't want to collaborate, that is also fine. I would encourage to collaborate, but it is not mandatory. And by not collaborating, you will not be losing marks.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, good. And if anybody is struggling to find collaborators, I am also willing to help them find collaborators. Okay? Good. What else? Yeah, go ahead.
In case of collaborating, we have to form groups, right?
Right, groups of 2 or 3, and that I will let you know whether it's 2 or 3. I will let you know once the enrollment is finalized.
Sir,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Krishna?
is it like groups of 3 or a person can collaborate with maximum 2 people?
No, I would suggest going for groups of. So if A, B, and C collaborate with each other, then those 3 people do not collaborate with other people, right? So does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it should not be that A is collaborating with B is collaborating with C is collaborating with D. That will be considered as an offense. It will be considered that A, B, C, D are all collaborating with each other. Okay. So please do not form chains. Just form groups.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or concerns?
Sir, I have another question. So
Yes,
the
go ahead.
difficulty level of the problems in writing exercises will it be quite high as compared to those in assignments?
That's a good point. It could be slightly higher. I generally try to break problems into parts. And I am generally, if I think that a certain problem is too difficult, I'm also willing to provide hints to everybody. So that those changes can be made dynamically. If a lot of students are struggling with a specific question, I will probably announce a hint for everybody, right? But the level will be slightly more than that of the regular exercises. It won't be it won't be too much more, right? What might happen is in a writing exercise, you might have to do some case analysis. So I don't think it's necessarily that much more difficult. It is just more time consuming, but not necessarily more difficult in an intellectual sense. It might just require more case analysis, and getting an elegant proof might require more time. But I don't think it's necessarily much more difficult than the assignment problems.
So basically,
Does that
it will be
yeah.
it will be a test of proof writing skills.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
And sir, both the assignments and writing exercises, they are meant for evaluation.
Yes, they are both meant for evaluation. The writing exercises will be 15 to 20% of your final grade, whereas the assignments will be, well, how much? 80 to 85% of your final grade. Let me just put that down here. So the assignments will be worth, let's say, 75 to 85%, and the writing exercise will be worth 15 to 25% of the final grade. Okay? And there will be no exams or anything. For the assignments, you can expect to have up to 10 days to complete. This is not set in stone. I will put approximately 10 days. And for the writing exercises, you will have approximately 20 days. Okay?
Sir,
Any,
will there
yeah,
be
go ahead.
will there be any exams or quizzes in this course?
No, no exams, no quizzes.
So only assignments.
Only assignments and writing exercises. Yeah.
And also, sir, you said that you will give some warm-up assignments. So are those meant for grading or will
No,
you?
no. The warm-up assignment, if there is any, it is not meant for grading.
Okay.
Even in the assignments, I am considering, this is something I did not do last semester, but I'm considering that I might have some not for submission exercises just to help you improve your understanding of concepts. But the only ones that need to be submitted are the ones that are marked for submission. Okay, so if there are any extra exercises, that is only to help you improve your understanding of the course. So, warm up assignment and warm up problems on assignments. These are not meant for uh, course grade. So they will have no effect on your course grade. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. One more important thing. All the assignments and writing exercises need to be done in LaTeX. Right? So I will give you a template file, and your job will be to fill out the template with your responses. Right? So the template file will just be problem number 1, response, and then you type your response there. Right? So it doesn't need deep knowledge of LaTeX. You don't need to prepare the template and everything yourself. I will give that to you, but you just need to write the mathematical content in it, the responses to the problems. Okay? So template will be provided by me. Okay? Any other questions or concerns? Okay. If not, so basically this is all I wanted to tell you regarding the logistical aspects of the course. So at this point, if there are any questions or concerns regarding the logistics, please let me know. Oh, so the screen share is blacking out because sometimes I'm going back to the Google Meet window. Sorry about that. Is it still blacking out for you? Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the main modules of the course. Right. So the course will be divided into some 6 modules. Right. So the first one will be, let's say, preliminaries, or if you like, a warm up. That thereafter we will talk about graph connectivity. So connectivity is a really important module. I'll keep switching the screen when I want to say certain things. So connectivity is a really important module because it's used in almost all other areas of graph theory. So a good understanding of graph connectivity comes in handy in almost any topic of study in structural graph theory, right? So it's kind of the foundation of most areas in structural graph theory. I don't know if some of you have learned things like Menger's theorem, but that is a topic in graph connectivity, for instance. Right? We will also be doing it in this course, but hopefully you will see a different proof than the one you have seen before. It is very common to prove it using network flows, but we will not be using proving it using network flows. We will be seeing a more graph theoretical proof of it. Okay. After connectivity, we will move on to a very exciting topic called planarity. And planarity is intrinsically connected with vertex colorings of a graph. Some of you may have heard of the 4-color theorem. If you don't know about it, don't worry about it. It basically says that any map in the world can be colored with 4 colors so that any 2 neighboring countries or regions get distinct colors, right? And that is basically a result in graph theory. It connects planarity with vertex colorings, right? So that will be our transition to vertex colorings. And vertex colorings are intrinsically related to other topics like edge colorings. So we will be doing bipartite matchings and edge colorings as one module. This may not match exactly with the outline, but this is the change I made last semester. So that will be another module. And finally, we will be doing matchings. So this will be focusing on non-bipartite graphs. Right? And well, this is the rough outline. There might be a few changes here and there, but those will be epsilon changes in the grand scheme of things. Right? And you can expect roughly spending 2 weeks on each of these. Connectivity, however, might take up to 3 weeks. And the rest you can assume approximately 2 weeks on each module. And typically you will have one assignment per module, but there might be some overlap here and there, depending on how we are making progress, right? Okay. If some of these terms and topics don't make sense to you, don't worry about it. You may ask me questions about it right now if you really want to, but let me know if all of these topics are new to you. So if you haven't seen any of these topics before, please let me know and we can talk a little bit about it. But if you have seen some of them, hopefully that should be that should give you an enough idea about where the course is heading. Okay. All right. So I want to do introductions at some point. I just feel that right now there are too many students who may not actually continue in the course based on my previous experience. So, and also I don't want to lose precious time because I know that some of you are here to make decision whether to take the course or not. So the introductions will not help you in that. So maybe we will postpone the introductions to next week once we have a clearer idea of who are the students who are really taking this course, right? But at this point in time, if you have any questions regarding the course, anything at all, just feel free to turn on your mic and ask questions. So I'll wait for a minute or so, and then I will tell you a little bit about maybe some first result in graph theory, our first result in graph theory. Okay, so there is a question whether the grading will be relative or absolute. So, okay, so for each assignment and writing exercise, the grading will be absolute, right? So each of you will be graded on the basis of how well your responses are written and how correct they are, of course, right? However, at the end of the course, when I have all the assignment marks and writing exercises marks, I will compute the score out of 100, and then it will be relative. So who gets an S grade, which is the highest grade in IIT Madras, who gets an A grade, it will all depend on how everybody has performed, right? So I won't say that everybody above 90 will get an S grade. For example, if there are, just to give you an example, if there are some students who are getting 97, 96, 95, and the next grade is 91, then those with 97, 96, 95, they have clearly performed significantly better than the one who has 91. So they will get an S grade, and the one who is at 91 might get an A grade, right? So the demarcations between grades will be based on the distribution of the students with respect to the grades, right? So at that point, it is relative. But individual assignments and exercises will be marked in an absolute fashion. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Sir,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
theory for the questions that are present in assignment, will that be relevant to what is taught in the class, or like will we have to do some extra reading by ourselves?
No. So generally, well, it depends slightly on your overall preparation for the course and your overall familiarity with writing proofs, right? But generally speaking, everything that is covered in the lectures is relevant to what you will be proving on assignments, and typically it should not require any additional reading. What might help some of those who are not as well prepared because of their previous background is doing some warm-up exercises. So that is the reason one of the students in my last offering of the course gave me the feedback towards the end that it would have helped to have some warm-up exercises, because that would help them in understanding the concepts better before proving more difficult statements. So it is with that in mind that I'm planning to have some warm-up exercises. So the warm-up exercises will be more helpful than doing additional reading. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or concerns?
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so since we'll be learning the theory from the course itself, but regarding the writing assignments, will you be, teaching us or guiding us with the writing part directly, or with all the writing and warm-up exercises? Is it something that we should learn by ourselves during the process?
Yeah, good point. um, right. So, okay. So my goal will be that, in the lectures you'll be seeing a lot of proofs. So in most lectures you'll be seeing some proofs, and at least in the beginning, I will be, at least for the first 2-3 results, I will write down the complete rigorous proofs. In general, I will be writing down rigorous proofs, but I may not spell out every single detail. I might leave a few things as a do-it-yourself exercise, right? My hope is that in the first few lectures, or maybe in the first few weeks, when I present those proofs, you will, and I will be sharing the notes at the end of the lecture with you. So that should give you some idea of what is expected in a rigorous mathematical proof and what is the level that is expected, right? So hopefully in the presentations during the lecture, you will see how proofs are written. And I would suggest that at the end of the lecture, you revisit these notes and maybe even spell out all the details that I may not have spelled out for some of the results. Generally, I make it very clear what has not been spelled out. I will tell you that this is a do-it-yourself exercise, right? So you should try that. We have a Piazza discussion forum. I would recommend everyone to make extensive use of Piazza. So if there is a do-it-yourself exercise in some lecture, and if you are not able to do it yourself, post it on Piazza. Tell everybody what you have done and where exactly you have gotten stuck. The good thing about Piazza is that when you post a note, you can also use LaTeX code in it. So rather than writing everything in text format, you can actually use LaTeX in Piazza by using $2 signs at the beginning and end. Okay, so you can ask me about those things. I am quite familiar with Piazza, and
Okay.
hopefully some other students will also have used it. Does
Okay,
that
thanks.
answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Another thing you can do is you can look up the Bondi Murthy textbook and you can try reading some of the proofs in there related to the things we are doing in the lectures. But that shouldn't really be necessary, especially if you have some experience in proof writing before this course. Right? Any other questions or concerns?
Sir,
Yes.
hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, may I know when the warm-up exercises will be released?
Okay, good point. Yeah, so I haven't prepared them yet. Let's see, today I can release them by Friday evening. By when do you have to decide whether to take a course or not at IIT Madras?
Sir, I think we have drop week also.
Okay, okay. And the ad drop week is until 6th of August, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I will try my best to send the warm-up exercises between 4th and 6th August. I will try to prepare it between these dates. And if I'm not able to do all of it, I might do it in batches. So I might release three, four problems, and then I might release three, four problems more later.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah? Okay, thanks. So maybe I should write this down for myself. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. All right, so we are at 12:40. We have another 10 minutes to go as per the official lecture timings. Also, if there is a lecture timing that is really not suitable to someone, like really not suitable, you just cannot make it, then please let me know and we can look into changing that timing for everybody. But that may not be easy because we may have a lot of students and finding a common time may not be that easy. Okay, but just letting you know that it is a possibility if it's absolutely necessary. Okay. Great. All right. So in 10 minutes, what can we do? So this is logistics and objectives. Let me start a new page. Okay, So let's begin. In the next few minutes, we will see what all we can discuss. Okay, so let's begin by what is a graph. Right, so I'm just going to make some drawings because I'm not a huge fan of formal definitions. I will write them, but I like to begin by examples and then go to the formal definitions. So here are some examples. Okay, so here you have a bunch of graphs, G1, G2, G3, and G4. Okay, so now let's see if we can, what I want to focus, one thing I want to stress on right now is that the drawing of the graph is simply a representation of the graph. You don't need to have a drawing for there to be a graph. Okay, to make this more clear, this graph here, G4, is the same as this graph, which I've drawn slightly differently. To give you another example, consider this graph. This graph is called K4 because it is a complete graph. We will talk about that a bit later. Basically, it's a graph where you have some number of vertices, right? So these are your vertices. And the lines joining the vertices are called your edges. So in this example, you have 4 vertices and any 2 vertices are joined by an edge, which is why it's called a complete graph. However, you can also draw this graph in a different way. For example, you may draw it like this. There is a clear difference between these 2 drawings. In the first drawing, you see that 2 edges are meeting at a point, which is not an end of that edge, right? So there is a point where 2 edges meet. However, in this drawing, there are no 2 edges that are meeting at a point, except the case where they have the same vertex as one end, right? So no edges, no 2 edges are meeting at a point. So these are 2 different drawings of the same graph, but they are not different graphs. That is the key point to keep in mind in structural graph theory. This is also K4. Okay? All right. So now let's define a graph formally. What you have is a set of vertices, a set of points if you like, but I will be using the word vertices because points gives you the impression that the drawing is really what is important. Okay, the drawing is just a representation of the graph, right? So we have vertices and then we have edges, and the edges may be viewed as a relationship between the vertices. 2 vertices are either related to each other, which means they have an edge between them, or they are not related to each other, which means there is no edge between them. Okay, so the formal definition, if you like. Okay. A graph G is a pair of, well, it has a set of vertices and a set of edges. This is the vertex set and this is the edge set. And each edge, sorry?
Sir,
Yeah.
I cannot see your writing.
Oh, you are not able to see my writing?
Up to this point, I have seen, but the last line which you have written, I am not able to see.
Oh, I think the sharing stopped for some reason. Sorry. I'm just going to start the OneNote again. Thanks for letting me know.
Basically, I can see your screen, but I can only see the first page, not the second one.
Okay, okay. Okay, now is it visible?
Yes, now it's visible, sir.
Okay, good.
Now it's visible.
So I hope everybody was able to see until this point, right? So a graph has a vertex set and an edge set. So vertex set is something like V1, V2, V3. This is a finite vertex set because we are going to deal with finite graphs only in this course. And edge set, each edge.
So will we be dealing with multigraphs?
Yes, that is a very good point. We will be dealing with multigraphs, but right now the way I'm defining a graph is a simple graph. But I will be talking about multigraphs soon. Okay, so what we are really defining right now is a simple graph. But for those who may not be familiar with multigraphs, don't worry. Think of this as the definition of a graph. Each edge is an ordered pair of unordered pairs, sorry, because we are dealing with undirected graphs. Another point is we are dealing with undirected graphs for this entire course. Throughout this course, mostly. There might be some exception later, but let's not worry about this right now. Okay? Okay, so each edge is an unordered pair of vertices. So, to give you an example, let's go back to our graph here, G4. It has V1, V2, V3, and V4. And in this example, we happen to have exactly 4 edges, E1, E2, E3, and E4. And for example, E1 is basically V1, V2. Doesn't matter how you write it. I will often just write V1, V2, which is of course the same as V2, V1.
Sir, by multigraphs, do you mean in the graph there will be multiple edges and loops?
Exactly.
Parallel edges and loops. Okay.
Right. So let me just give you an example of a multigraph, but I won't go into the definition right now, maybe next lecture. So what is an example of a multigraph? So in other words, this is not a simple graph. So an example of a multigraph is the following. Something like this. So here you have, first thing is that you have an edge which is joining the same vertex with itself, right? So the two ends of the edge are the same. It's V1. Then you have the other condition, the other possibility, which is that there are two edges, E1 and E2, which are both joining V2 and V3, right? So this is, let's say, now this is E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, and E6. Okay, so E1 has the ends V1 and V2, sorry, V2 and V3. So this is another term, ends. Hopefully it is clear by the drawing and example. And E2 also has the same ends. Right? So these are called multiple or parallel edges, depending on which book you are referring to. Okay? And this one here, E3, joins, so this is another term we'll be using, V1 with itself. So this kind of an edge is called a loop. Okay? So by this example, we have defined a few things, and I will not be writing down rigorous definitions. The example should make it clear what it means. Okay? So in a multigraph, loops and parallel edges are allowed. Whereas in a simple graph, loops and parallel edges are not allowed. No loops, and no parallel edges. Okay? Good. All right. So let's see. We are already at 12:50. So I don't want to take up more time right now. I would rather just wait here for 10 minutes for any questions or concerns that you all may have. Right? So any questions or concerns regarding what we have defined so far? Right, so we've defined a simple graph, and also, well, if the vertex set is finite, then obviously the edge set is also finite. That goes without saying, at least if the graph is simple. Okay. Okay. All right, so if there are no questions or concerns pertaining to the stuff we have covered so far, which is just the definition of a graph, then I'm going to stop the recording, but I will stay here for another at least 8 to 10 minutes, maybe more, and I'll stay here to answer any questions or concerns that any of you may have. Right, so feel free to stay back and ask me any questions or concerns. Okay. So let me stop recording. How do I do this?